Chers auditeurs,
Dear listeners,
bonjour.
welcome to Comme d'Archi Podcast Season 5.
Saison 5, dans le monde fascinant des architectes.
And in the architectural projects.
Je suis Anne-Charlotte Deponte, passionnée d'architecture et docteur des universités en histoire de l'archi.
I am one of the spokespersons of Anne-Charlotte, who is a PhD in architecture history.
Merci.
Thank you
D'être avec moi aujourd'hui.
to be with us today.
Et
And
maintenant,
now,
lundi en français, place au talent.
and Wednesday, let's talk projects. In English, of course.
Bienvenue dans Comme d'Archi.
Hello everyone. Hello Alice.
Hey, hello.
Thank you for being with us today. You are architect. In 2 or 3 sentences, could you introduce us to your architectural practice?
So, my name is Alice. I'm the an architect, principal and studio lead for Grimshaw in France. Grimshaw is an international practice that was founded in the 80s by Nicholas Grimshaw. The practice has grown into an international large studio across the US, the UK, Australia, but also has now a presence in New Zealand and China and in France. The practice has grown around a lot of industrial transport and multi-sector projects and is funded around an approach of architecture around collaboration and resolving complexity. Nicholas Grimshaw has had this idea of doing architecture where you didn't have architecture, so industrial buildings, for example, working with a lot of prefabrication. And within that, the practice has grown into a larger expertise globally, internationally, which is about doing sustainable, but also an architecture that brings joy to people.
Mm-hmm. And what about your presence around the world?
Yes, we've been founded in the UK at the beginning of around 2000. The practice has moved around the US and Australia because we had projects that started over there, transport and cultural projects. That was key to the growth of the studio. And it wasn't a planned growth. It was looking at project where we could bring values, and the practice has grown around that. And it's the same for France. We came because we won 2 stations for the Grand Paris Express in 2016. That was for the Aubervilliers station. That was part of Line 15 East with Aegis. And we came for this project, and then the practice and the studio in France has grown around that project.
Mm-hmm. And now can you tell us about your project, Rapas, in Toulouse?
So in France, we're bringing the expertise of the global studios. Part of that is our expertise in infrastructure and transport projects. In Toulouse, the bridge is part of a wider project that is led by Toulouse Métropole for the Grand Parc Garonne. So it's about transforming the rivers and everything, the environment is around the river into natural environments, so bringing back nature to cities. The Rami Island, which is very close from the city center, is where you've got the stadium currently, and also the previous Congress Center. The Grand Parc Garonne, which is a project designed by l'Agence Terre, is about removing most of the building and the concrete that is on the ground and bringing the nature back. And with that is this idea of mobility, which obviously you need to make sure that you can cross the island on the bike or walking. And so with that is a couple of bridges currently under construction. One of it is the footbridge Rapas. So it's a cycling and pedestrian bridge, 5 meter wide. It's a 160 meter long span above the river. There's one side, which is the city side, that has a flooded mitigation infrastructure, which has to be protected. It's a very sensible piece of infrastructure. And because of that, we had to hold the entire span of the bridge from the island. So there's a very tall mast. It's about 60 meters tall. It would be one of the Toulouse highest points. And the entire span is hauled from the mast with a lot of cables, and then taking all of that weight from the bridge back into the island in a concrete structure, which is designed as a circular ramp for cyclists, but also disabled access. And this idea of the circular ramp is also, you have to picture the island where You can see all the trees that will be, grown and all the nature. And you can turn around, at tree levels where you got all the leaves and then coming down on the floor, on the ground. So it was about also experiencing nature by coming down and up on the bridge.
Okay. And now can you tell us about your Eden project?
So the Eden project is one of the key iconic projects of the practice. It was designed and built early 2000. It was an industrial site that they were used to dig clay out of the ground. And because of that, it created a large pit, and the topography of the floor was changing all the time. So the question was, first, how do you transform the site and bring it back into nature? And then the second question was, how do you build a structure if the floor is moving all the time? The solution came from finding a structural solution from soap bubble. So the bubble that can be, whatever the surface is always going to adapt its shape, but it's always going to be a sphere. So it's the same thing. So we've got a structural system that is made of a metal structure with ETFE cushion. So it's a 2-layer of ETFE, which you blow up air pressure in it. And because of that, it's very lightweight. It allows the light, obviously, to get in, which is great to get the plant. So inside, you've got a tropical forest for one of the biome, and then the other one is a Mediterranean environment. And then the rest of the site is a large master plan that has been rehabilitated with trees. And the project is all about being a leisure place where people can come and visit and enjoy access to culture, but it's also an education project where you can teach schools and the public about the importance on biodiversity and make it accessible to everyone. And even today, it is still the largest attraction in the UK outside of London that is visited.
Mm-hmm. And can you tell us about the perennity of the project?
The perennity of the building, it's a building that hedges quite well. You have to look after it like every building. A building is not just a dead piece of materials. It's something that lives across time. So it has to be maintained, and it's always part of every design that we do to think about how do you maintain the building, how it's going to evolve through times as well. So the biome is accessible, so you can climb on it. You got a couple of pictures on the website where you can see people actually climbing on those biomes to allow access and regular maintenance. And ETFE, it's material that age quite well, and I think that project is definitely one of the examples.
Yes, it's a beautiful project.
Yeah. And it was actually seen in one of the James Bond movie. I can't remember which one. I think it's one of the bad guy that was living there or something. I think he was covered in snow.
A last word?
A last word is, at Grimshaw, the practice has evolved, during the last decades. We've always been interested with complexity and sustainability, and we've always found ways within each project to find the right balance between the two. And I think this idea of resolving complexity and finding this simple idea that make the project something that everyone can understand, but a place also where any user can find some joy, some comfort, is really the way the practice works. So it's not just about doing another sustainable building and checking all the boxes on the regulation. It's really about creating a place that has a feeling, a sensation that is bringing something to the human beings living in it.
Mm. Bravo.
Thank you.
It's a very good approach today, I think.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, everyone. And see you next Wednesday for New Comme d'Archi in English. Take care of yourself. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Thanks to Julien Rebours, sound engineer, who is collaborating with us today. Don't forget to tune in to our previews on Instagram at Comme d'Archi Podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, don't hesitate to promote it by giving it 5 stars and a little comment on Apple Podcast or on your favorite podcast platform. And above all, subscribe to listen to all of our episodes for free. See you soon, and until then, take care of yourself.